Good evening, Oakland and beyond. It's been a while since we last came at you, so obviously we got a lot to talk about on this broadcast tonight. A's news, other related stuff, and of course a whole lot more before this Saturday night is underway. And yes, I realize we're coming at you in the midst of the game going on right now, but hey, it is what it is. Y'all can multitask, watch a baseball game, listen to this broadcast at the same time. On that note, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to show number 313 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. It is, of course, legally 5150 Corporal Oaktown coming at you from Dub 6 Studios in the Eastmont Hills overlooking the Deep East and the Coliseum, where, of course, the A's are in the midst of the second game of a three-game series with the Texas Rangers. Again, got a lot to talk about on this show tonight as far as the A's and other things go. I am not alone for this edition of the broadcast, though he will only be joining me briefly for the beginning portion of this show since he happens to be at the Roots game right now and it's halftime there. So checking in from Laney College right now is the other half of the dynamic duo, the main man, the boss man. Boss, what's up?
Guys, I was planning to be a part of the show, but I had to come to this game. My son-in-law, he really, he's a soccer guy. He's from Fiji originally. He loves soccer. I told him, man, don't take you to a Roots game, man. Let's see what it do, man, one time, though. So he's having a great time right now. Currently right now at halftime, it's all tied up. Nobody has scored, so it's 0-0. Roots got a red card right before the half. The goalie got a red card. I'm just amazed when I see that. Goalie got a red card and the coach got tossed too. So we're down, man. We're really gonna have to really do a lot of work to see if we can even just at least get a tie, get a point out of this though. It's really tough sledding right now, but in Oakland we never have anything easy, man. But I'm having a good time. Seen a lot of people out here. You see Bleacher Day, seen Mo, being there Saturday with the town function, Khalil Karn, big Khalil out there, man. So, it's I think also Jorge Leon, he was out there too. So, we're having a good time. So I thought, let me just drop it for after. I was supposed to be a show, but 2 hours before I decided to go because sometimes we kind of need to just get out of our system and go do a sporting event. And my son-in-law, he needed this, and so, I'm just doing what it do, though. Always looking out for my family,
Definitely glad to hear that. And it's crazy to hear, by the way, that the goalie got red carded and ejected, because that actually happened at the last game I went to a couple months ago, so that's crazy. Last Roots game I go to, goalie gets a red card and ejected. Boss goes to a game, goalie gets a red card and ejected. Before we get on into normal matters here on tonight's show, and obviously before Boss has to cut off, before we get into all that other stuff, many of you, of course, obviously are aware of this, have probably heard the news by now, but if for some reason you have not, we regret to unfortunately bring you the unfortunate news that earlier this week, good friend of ours, long time good friend of both myself and Boss Man, basically a mentor and kind of an uncle, I guess you can really look at it as far as we're concerned, and others out there are as well. Greg Jones, many of you, of course, know him as Godfather Griz Jones, unfortunately passing away at the age of 52 after a long several months worth battle of things with cancer and a whole bunch of other health issues that have been going on since basically the winter time that he kind of kept close to the chest until a couple months beforehand, kind of let a few people within the inner circle know, but typical Griz all the way to the end, just putting everyone in the city of Oakland before his own interests, and just really was heartbreaking waking up to this news Wednesday, which is part of the reason why we ended up not doing this show this past Wednesday, was because of all this stuff going on, and just, that Wednesday also being the anniversary when my aunt was murdered 2 years ago. Just dealing with both of those at the same time was just too much for me to bear with, and just figured, give, a chance for everybody to honor Griz that day, pay tribute to his memory and bump the show up to tonight. Many of you, of course, know that he was part of the group known as the 66 Mob, which would tailgate for 2, 3, sometimes even more days on end leading up to Oakland Raider home games. He was part of the group that definitely led the huge effort to try to keep the Raiders here in in Oakland and ultimately tried to sue the NFL and the Raiders to keep the Raider brand here after they went to Vegas. Pretty much after all that played out, he devoted his efforts more towards focusing on helping out the homeless in and around the Coliseum and the rest of the city of Oakland, as well as also putting efforts towards things on the A's side with sharing his support for seeing the Howard Terminal project ultimately come to fruition. I don't know if he ever had a chance to make it out to a Roots game where Boss is currently at right now, but he definitely supported the Roots. He was looking forward to seeing what the Oakland Soul could bring to the table. Definitely was an advocate of ASCG Oakland, ultimately doing stuff at the Coliseum, and it's just it's crazy, man, that we're not going to see however the story of the future of Oakland sports ultimately plays out. Griz is not going to be there to help end the chapter of that. But as a good friend of ours, Chris Diabetti, put it, one of the best things that we can do to honor this man's legacy is continue to do what he did. Fight for Oakland. Fight for Oakland's future. Go out there and help the homeless. Put, the pressure out there to keep these teams here, do stuff to do all these other things, and just, as somebody that met the guy in 2002, 3-ish initially, through my wife's cousin, who many of you all out there know, of course, is 510 guy, went out there one time randomly for a tailgate. Griz kind of gave us the idea to try to start up an A's tailgate version of the 66 Mob. The kind of was short-lived for about a season or two. Loosely kept in contact with them on and off after that, but then we reconnected once the whole situation of trying to keep the Raiders here began to heat up, and then obviously after that all played out, I became part of a full-time kind of ingredient within Griz's Forever Oakland group, and basically became one of two on-site managers that, kept an eye on 66th Avenue whenever we did stuff. The main man, the boss man, known Griz a little bit longer than I have, met Griz for the first time back in 1994, and just, boss, your thoughts on that, and as well as just general thoughts and everything on this just unfortunate moment and what ultimately will be a very big hole in the heart and soul of the city of Oakland.
Well, as I told you guys 2 weeks ago, when Griz, learned about his illness, it was a tough moment for me, and it's really tough now to talk to you guys about it, because you're kind of incredulous to the idea that guy is gone. As you guys know, I've known this about 1994. And a lot of people have not known Griz as long as I have, at least as part of the Oakland fan sports sector. But I did, and it was an honor to know that guy. It was an honor to fight beside him for his identity, for his team to stay here. We weren't successful as we want to be. But you don't buck down anything. If you really believe in something, you don't jump to the other side. And that's what that guy was not going to do. When Mark Davis came up to him in the lobby after he got the vote, March 27th, 2017, Griz knew what he wanted when he said he wanted to talk to him. And they met in April over at PF Change, yes, in Walnut Creek, or whatever the hell that was at. He offered Griz job of a lifetime, a house, money, title. Griz never was going to take it. Griz told me when he was at his, on his bed at Highland Hospital, he told me he couldn't do it. He told me no way that he could ever just give in like that, because it just wouldn't be him. Because as I'm talking to you guys right now, I see Councilwoman Nikki Bass. And this is funny. I'm doing an AsFANRAdio show right now. Godfather Griz Jones passing. Very sad, right? So yes, you know that Godfather Griz Jones passed. Yes. Happened this week. Talk to the council person. Yeah, she's wearing an Oakland Soul shirt like you're doing this podcast show right now while I'm talking to you, though. But we'll definitely talk later, though. See, look.
AsFANRAdio exclusive right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Just come right over, and she's going to win again, because I think she's running on the polls. But me and her will talk about that later, though. Yeah, but see how I run into it. Yeah, so just a total, just devastating loss. He did this because he loves you people. I gotta just say that. He loves you people. Loves you people a lot. We we'll talk ad nauseum for hours about the East Bay. And, the Bay Area overall, but the East Bay especially, Contra Costa and Alameda counties, all residents that they're in between, people that moved out to the valleys or what have you, Fresno and Modesto and Stockton. We have such an affinity for you people. I think his even more. He moved back from Escalon in 2015 or 2014. He wanted to fight. He saw the identity of this place being ripped. He couldn't stand it because it meant so much. So when I got the call a couple weeks ago that he was officially sick, you kind of suspected because you've seen the pictures of him. He was getting very thinner in a short amount of time. And when you asked him about it, he was not going to disclose it. And you know what? I don't blame him. He is a strong character. He's stubborn and strong-willed. And you want people to have their dignity. I was going to let that man have his dignity. I had a feeling something was not right. But it's not my place to do that to that man. And he apologized to me. And I said, why are you apologizing to me? I'm stubborn just like you. He started laughing. And I would do the same thing probably. I mean, why not? We human. If you're a strong man, you don't want nobody to see weakness and vulnerability. But sometimes, I have to say, showing some vulnerability actually shows strength. And I think toward the end, he saw that as a lot of people who he hadn't talked to in years. Even some people who said that I didn't even know that they had some, some disagreements and differences that caused them to not talk a while. But they buried the hatchet on that. And it was great that they squashed that. Life's too short, people. It's too short. And if you got a problem with somebody, hash it out. Get it out the way, especially if you guys are truly friends or family. Me and Griz didn't agree all the time. But we had the respect for each other because both of us were strong men about it throughout all of that. So I'm hurt, but I'm also grateful that I got to have the opportunity to know that man for the decade of the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2010s. So I knew that man was all those years. And I can tell you guys this because second half obviously started. You guys hear the drums in the background. His last few posts on Facebook were about Howard Terminal being done for the A's and the Coliseum being developed by the AASCG. He wants to see Oakland be better. That's why he was feeding the homeless. That's why he was giving food to those that are in need. Why he was picking up trash. He really loved this place. He loved you guys. So don't you ever forget that. No matter what. When you put yourself on the line like that, because a lot of people won't do it, that's a respect. And a friend of mine told me Oakland lost somebody big. That's a big loss. It's true. Now it's up to us. Dig in deep. Do what we can. Make Oakland, East Bay as great as it can be, as great as it used to be, and even greater. So, on that note, to all my Valley people, to all my real Oakland Raider people, 66 Five Brothers, Jamal, Alfonso, Chris Layden, John Jones, Jules, Dr. Death, Adam, Matt Bassey, Sal, Hector. I'm just thinking of so many different names. Eric Madison, Mad Dog. I really, really value you guys. Love you guys to death. John Flint, Town Biz Flint, my guy. Some of these people I would not even got to know if it was not for Griz. People I love, people I hold dear to my heart. That guy brought a lot of people together. Thousands upon thousands of people encountered that guy. He was an ambassador for this city, for this area. So, I'm going to miss you, my man. You always in my heart. I'm going to do what I can. You already know what it is I'm going to be doing. Make this place better. Anyhow, you guys take care.
Boss man, thank you for joining us live, by the way, again, from Laney College, the site of the Oakland Roots soccer match right now, where they're currently taking on the Las Vegas Lights. Anything else you want to say before you dip on out, sir?
No, except that the A's, but the Roots are down 1-0 now.
Son of a bitch. Let me go ahead and cut you loose, man, so you can go and watch the rest of that game. You be safe out there tonight, my friend. All right, the boss man again, ladies and gentlemen, checking in from Laney College right now, where unfortunately at the moment the Oakland Roots are currently losing by the score of 1-0 at the moment. We'll check in on things with that, obviously, later in the broadcast. Real quickly to get in some little final tidbits here on my end is, of course, again, we're paying homage to the late, great Godfather Griz Jones. Many of you, of course, probably know him also by his government name of Greg Jones. Again, boss met him back in the mid '90s, just right before the Raiders came back up here from Los Angeles, and I, of course, first met him roughly mid 2002, 2003, or so, about early 2000s when I got the chance to meet this guy. And yeah, just individual that for me, what always stood out to me when it came to Griz, and honestly, it stood out to me more than his sports fandom, was how he cared so much about this city, regardless it was helping out the homeless in this city, doing what he could to help boots on the ground efforts for getting certain projects to, get done in the city to make it better and whatnot. Just, the man was on a mission day in and day out to do what he could to make sure that Oakland was better when everything was all said and done. And Forever Oakland does plan to continue forward with doing things. We do still have things planned for the usual first Saturday of the month cleanup all around Oakland. That, of course, the next one going down on Saturday, August the 5th. We'll be getting more details out there in regards to that, obviously, and things as far as any future events going forward once we've had the time to reflect and, deal with fallout from all of this going on. But definitely the sense I've gotten from, talking to Chris, who's the chief financial officer for Forever Oakland, and some of the other members from what they've posted out there, that definitely the vibe is to keep this group going forward, keep this legacy basically of Grizz's going forward and intact. Other thing I want to make sure to mention as well, just in case if any of you out there haven't gotten a chance to get on social media today, and this is the first time you're seeing anything about the news in regards to this, there will be a candlelight vigil going down tomorrow over there at the corner of 66th Avenue and Coliseum Way, which we over the years have all referred to, of course, as Mob Alley, where Griz has always basically set up his HQ home base for all the tailgates that he did over the years, home base of operations from when we did the first Saturday of the month cleanups, and, there'd be other various things we would do over there as well from that little corner and plot of land there on 66th Avenue and Coliseum Way, be it tailgates to watch A's games. It's many of you all may have forgotten or, may loosely remember, may not. We did a bunch of tailgates over there when fans couldn't go into the ballpark to watch stuff because of things in 2020 with the whole COVID situation. Griz was, and I always appreciated, as did members of Tightwad Hill, Griz let Tightwad Hill set up shop for the 2020 big game out there and have a viewing party out there. Again, great individual, great man that just, was just very selfless and just, always looked out for, beyond himself. And it's just going to be unfortunate and, just, God, hard to put this in words right now, even after, a couple days of reflection on this. Just, I'm going to miss a lot of the conversations we had, either, on social media, over the phone, whenever we did stuff, the advice over the years, and just, again, continue to do my part to help, do what he did for so long to help make the city better. Just, sitting here looking back today, just for example, just never thought that April 30th game earlier this year, which unfortunately was a 3-1 loss for your Oakland Athletics against the Cleveland Guardians on that day. Never thought that would be the last time that me and Griz would go to an A's game together. But, we still had fun, still had a blast, even though the A's took an L at the Coliseum on that Saturday afternoon at the end of April. But just shows you just how crazy and how fast and how life comes at you, man. And just, you got to learn to enjoy and appreciate those moments with those around you, family, friends that you consider to be family, or friends that consider you to be family. Y'all get what I'm talking about here, because just you never know when stuff like this is going to happen. And we will obviously keep everyone posted through social media on things that are going, as far as other, memorials, the funeral service, stuff like that. There is a GoFundMe out there, so definitely make your way over to either our Facebook page or our social media page. I will be continuously, regularly sharing the GoFundMe to help out with paying for funeral arrangements for Griz for, the next, the foreseeable future in regards to that. So keep your eyes open for that. And for anyone that's making it out to the candlelight vigil tomorrow night over at 66th Avenue and Coliseum Way, there will be a jar out there as well for individuals to be able to help kick in donations and contributions to raising funds for Griz's funeral. So just again, great man, great individual, cared so much about the city of Oakland and the people that lived in the city of Oakland, regardless what their, walk of life and background was. And it's, going to be just real unfortunate to not have this man be a part of the story going forward. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a moment of silence for the late Godfather Griz Jones. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, reminder, anyone that can make it out there tomorrow night, again, candlelight vigil in memory of Griz will be taking place over at Mob Alley, corner 66th Avenue, Coliseum Way. They'll be starting at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And just keep your eyes peeled to social media for additional information on stuff going forward with, again, any other memorial-related stuff, funeral service when we finally get a chance to get around to getting things handled with that. And obviously keep your eyes open for what we have planned going forward as far as things with Forever Oakland goes and takes place. Let's go ahead and before we take our first break of the night here on show number 313 of AsFANRAdio, which of course the broadcast tonight, then this entire show will be dedicated in the memory of the late Godfather Griz Jones. As far as Howard Terminal related news, not much really to talk about since the BCDC vote went down, and of course the city council shooting down the Space Cadet Manifesto, aka Noel Gallo's ballot measure to try to have a non-binding vote done by the people of Oakland. And just we already got in details with that, so no need to touch bases on all that. Really, ever since then, not so much has been coming out of the woodworks as far as any sort of things, as far as talks between the A's and the city goes. Depending on who you talk to out there, you may be hearing, from some people things are good, from other people things are bad. It's really kind of hard to sit there and you can pin down really what's truth and what's BS really kind of at this point. But it's, both sides are still talking. That definitely is something that we can confirm at this point. But yeah, it's been, kind of quiet as far as what exactly is going on. And we're not really shocked by that. Friends of the show like Casey Pratt aren't really shocked by that either, given the fact that you're going up to the point where the city council and the Oakland city government will be taking their little summer recess. So there was kind of really the expectations that there was probably not going to be much to be dealt with as far as any sort of updates until after they return. But obviously, I'm pretty sure, and others out there are pretty sure as well, the talks will even continue during that point in time. Really kind of the only things you had come up was reports that apparently Joe Lacob still has a standing offer to buy the Oakland Athletics off of John Fisher and the current A's ownership group, which kind of, sparked a really good debate over Twitter in the day or so that followed after that. You obviously got individuals out there that feel that, hell yeah, we should have Joe Lacob buy the team, and I can see the arguments and understanding for that. Joe mentioned that obviously if he years ago in an interview that technically was originally done by Steven Tavares, but then Tim Kawakami decided to steal Steven's story and put out there about the fact that Lacob wanted to buy the A's, build a stadium at Howard Terminal, all that stuff. So I can see how people look at that angle, looking at seeing what he did with the whole situation with the Warriors and all that. But then I can understand and see where people like my main man, the Boss Man, came from, where regardless of all of that stuff, dude, you and the Warriors ownership tried to stiff the city of Oakland with over $40 million in money that you legally, by contract and by law, owed for renovations to your own arena. Not to mention the fact that before y'all even got approval to buy the Warriors, y'all had no consideration of trying to build something new arena-wise in Oakland. Your sights were set on San Francisco, basically, at that point. And we've touched bases on that multiple times on this show because of individuals out there we know. And I want to say I think it was individuals that ultimately have ties to ASCG before ASCG was found that knew that news. But folks, Boss knew that, and we talked about that very early on with all that. But basically, when I saw people out there, they either 100%, they either agreed with Boss on everything he said as far as, basically Boss said, Joe Lacob can go to hell. I don't want him to buy the Warriors. I could, you could see where people, agreed with him fully. 100% were like, hell yeah, you're right, da-da-da-da-da. Others out there were, kind of looking at it as a crazy hot take, I guess you can say, and for many years, and looking at things, I guess you can say, I don't know, I'm on the fence with that, but on the fence leaning towards the sides of, honestly, I don't want Lacob to be the owner, and it's, kind of for the same reasons as Boss, but the reality is, and mind you, this is coming from a white boy, I'm tired of seeing rich-ass white folk own damn near every sports team in this country. Professional, low professional, whatever. I'm tired of it being all a bunch of rich white blokes. It's about time to see some, people of color out there, some minorities, buy these teams. It's one of the big reasons why, honestly, I advocate for ASCG Oakland having the first crack at buying the A's if they ever go on the market, or maybe see Reggie get a chance to buy the team again, maybe see George Zimmer jump in with all that. But, that's what I'm going at, and that's kind of why I lean towards more not wanting Lacob. It has nothing to do with, obviously he would spend on stuff. It does nothing to do with the fact that, he probably would do Howard Terminal, and then he could, I guess, apparently mentioned something about the Coliseum being a fallback plan, which we all know is a no-go because MLB's already said and the A's have said too, hey, that ain't going to happen. But, you can get where people are like Boss are coming from. If you were thinking about building at Howard Terminal, why didn't you keep the Warriors here? Why didn't you wait till you got Howard Terminal and build both a basketball stadium and a basketball arena and a baseball stadium down there? So, again, I see both sides of the coin when it comes to the whole Joe Lacob being involved with the A's in some capacity. I see the arguments for it. I see the arguments against it. And like I said, I lean kind of towards the arguments against it side. But, it is what it is. And the reality is, if anything like that is going to take place at all, we got to be real. It's not going to happen until what y'all are staring at happens at the earliest, the ballpark portion of that. It's great to sit here and fantasize about who could potentially do it, but, the reality is it's kind of a moot point until they actually do decide to put it out there. But if they ever were, I'm going to be honest with you, I would rather see ASCG get first crack than Joe Lacob. But again, that's just my 2 cents. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it. I'm really at the point where I don't want to argue with cats on it anymore. You can just agree to disagree on that. I know some out there with you agree with me, agree with Boss's take. Some of y'all obviously don't agree with us on that. So, yeah, it's pretty much it is what it is on that, but that's what I have to say in regards to that. And obviously you all heard Boss share his thoughts on that over the course of the day when all that stuff went on. Really, the only other thing as well to throw out there that, in my opinion, is of significant news at this point is Bleacher Dave, who, of course, is part of things with the steering committee to get things with the CBA negotiated with the project, put out an update back on the 20th of July to let everybody know that things with the final Community Fund Commission framework had been sent to the city attorney, and that basically, has to do again with the community benefits discussion regarding Howard Terminal and the A's. So as of 3 days ago, again, final Community Fund Commission framework sent to the City of Oakland attorney on things with that, and we're obviously waiting around to see what happens with that and anything else. But again, don't be shocked that, again, it's been quiet. Folks we know out there have been trying to dig around, see if there's anything out there worth of interest to put out there, but given that we haven't seen anything, that's probably why you haven't heard anything yet at this point. But just don't assume that, any sort of quiet means bad. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be whatever. Just don't assume things. Like we said, as far as we know, things are still talking. And, of course, we're still waiting to see if you who's out there in the, equivalent of Tatooine with a drying up lake out there are going to ever put out some sort of rendering or not. But, been talking about that for months now, and we have yet to see things. But, again, maybe they haven't done anything with that because of the fact that everything's been rolling in favor of this bad boy happening. But, either way, we will, of course, keep you up to speed and up to date on all matters tied to this, regardless if we do it here on the show or over on our social media pages. And on that note, we're going to go and take our first break of the night here on show number 313 of A's Fan Radio. But before we do take our first break, there is a fan question of the night sitting out there. So if you haven't had a chance to do so, make your way over to either Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter to submit your responses to the fan question of the night for this edition of the show. Look for either the post or tweet that has the little quote tweet on there that shows everything, or just follow the directions on there for the posts, the one up at 8:05, and that will show you how to go about responding to that. Post your responses. I will read those responses, of course, during the final segment of tonight's show. Two-part fan question for this edition of the show. Part one, obviously, for any of y'all out there that happen to know Godfather Griz Jones, we'd love to hear you share a memory of some time that you the past or whatever, some great moment you had out there. Share a memory you had with Griz from back in the day. And obviously the other part of that question as well, so that way those of y'all that did not know Griz have something to ask or respond to out there. Hey, we want to hear your thoughts on how you feel the Oakland Athletics will do during the post-All-Star break stretch of the 2022 season. Speaking of which, when we come back from our first break of the night, we will go ahead and quickly take a look at what went down for the Green and Gold before the All-Star break happened. That, and of course, a lot more to still come at you before the night is over with here on this good old Twitch channel that hosts this crazy-ass show. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back at you here on show number 313 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. And, of course, tonight's broadcast is dedicated to the late Griz Jones. Rest in peace, Godfather.
Hello, baby.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics. A's Talk from the fans' point of view since 2003. It is show number 313, technically the All-Star break edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. And, of course, tonight's broadcast is dedicated to the late Godfather Griz Jones. It is the legally 5150 Corporal Oaktown coming at you from Dub 6 Studios located in the Eastmont Hills of Oakland, California. Main man, the boss man, joined me briefly for a little bit as part of our little tribute that we did for the Godfather Griz at the beginning of the broadcast. So if you didn't get a chance to catch that and you missed it, you can go ahead and, of course, rewind and check out things when the recording of this broadcast is done, either on Twitch or, of course, when we post the recording up on our YouTube channel later in the night / early in the morning tomorrow. Let's go ahead and get into normal shenanigans here in the first half of tonight's broadcast. As, of course, we take a look back at games that were played out by your Oakland Athletics over the course of the last week or so, or basically the games that they played right before the All-Star break went down. And we got 3 series that we're going to go ahead and just, quickly go over here. Not going to really break into the full-on box score of things because just don't really want to drag out the longevity of this entire night on y'all with that. So it'll be a quick crash course in what went down in these series that the Oakland Athletics played right before the All-Star break began. First of those three series that happened was the final 3 games of a homestand that went down at the Coliseum just a little over 2 weeks ago, the back end of 6 games that made up the most recent homestand before the All-Star break for the green and gold. First 3 games of that series, of course, saw the A's take 2 out of 3 from the visiting Toronto Blue Jays. After an off day on Thursday, July the 7th, the Houston Astros would come into the Coliseum to close out the back end of that 3-game series. First game of that 3-game set, of course, went down back on Friday, July the 8th. It, of course, saw your Oakland Athletics take a loss against the Houston Astros, falling by the final of 8-3. The following day, Saturday, September the 9th, it saw the Oakland Athletics even the series up at 1 game apiece as they would take a win back from Houston and come out on top with a victory when it was all said and done on that Saturday afternoon at the Coliseum as they would defeat Houston on July the 9th by the final of 3-2. That, of course, would set the tone for the rubber match and finale of that 3-game series and the finale of that quick little 6-game homestand at the Oakland Coliseum. Would not, of course, be a good outcome for your Oakland Athletics as they would end up dropping the finale of that series and, of course, losing that series to the Astros in the process. Final score, of course, of that one, the A's losing to Houston by the final of 6-1. So both games in that series that the A's lost, of course, you saw Houston score, multiple runs over the course of that game, the A's being limited to pretty much 3 runs or less, which has kind of become a little bit of a common theme, unfortunately, with this squad in 2022. But given the offensive numbers out there, it's, kind of hard to not sit there and point it out, not notice it, crack jokes about it, good or bad, or just to take your attention off of the hashtag rooted in straight donkey assness that Boss Man and I foresaw, unfortunately, coming down the chute with this team in 2022. And, just pretty much this is kind of what you would expect. I mean, you are happy, I guess, to some extent that they were able to win a game in this series, but it does kind of against a little bit of a shocker. I mean, come on, let's be real. With the way they've been playing as of late, would you have been honestly shocked if Oakland would have gotten swept in that 3-game series to close out things at the Coliseum right before the break? And if you're saying you weren't, I don't think they would have been shocked. You're lying. You're doing drugs. So don't say that. I would have been shocked if Houston would have swept us in that series. But, great to see that the A's were able to take a game in there. But, again, just kind of the same old, unfortunately, for this squad in 2022 and probably most likely what we will see the rest of the way out in 2022. But, hey, you never know. I'm not saying that these knuckleheads are all going to shock the world and go on a tear and somehow win the World Series with the roster they got. That'd be insane if that happened and be worthy of a movie, an Oscar, and, all the diamond and gold and jewels in the world, the universe, and beyond and all that. But, I highly doubt that's going to end up happening at that point. Anyway, the A's, of course, would play 6 games on the road before the All-Star break would commence. All 6 of those games taking place in Texas, by the way. The first 3 of those 6 games taking place at Globe Life Park in Arlington, a.k.a. the feed barn on steroids, because that's literally what it looks like from the outside, is a damn feed barn with steroids. Shout out to the good friend of the show, Emperor Joshua, who pointed out that it probably looks like that because they did that intentionally to lure some of them farm boys out there to watch the game. Hey, would not shock if that is the case. But, literally that the stadium that they built over there literally looks like a feed barn on roids. Is what it is. I understand they build things bigger in Texas, but, come on, man, but whatever. Anyway, 3-game series that would go down at Globe Life Park between your Oakland Athletics and the Texas Rangers. These 3 games, of course, taking place from July 11th through the 13th. The first game, of course, on Monday, July the 11th, would see both teams nearly each score double-digit runs. The A's fell 2 runs short of double-digit runs in this contest. But basically this game, and as you would ultimately see the second game, kind of had the vibes of those matchups that you used to watch at the stadium across the street, which, by the way, is still there. Apparently a multi-purpose stadium now, I guess, is what they have. The ballpark in Arlington, or whatever the bloody hell they call it now at this point. It's got some other name attached to it now with it being a multi-purpose stadium, but don't remember off the top of my head right now, so we'll just go ahead and go with ballpark in Arlington. But this game on Monday the 11th and the game the following day on the 12th were kind of reminiscent of the slugfest, knockout punching back and forth contest you used to see at the ballpark in Arlington. The A's would ultimately lose game one by the final of 10-8. They would outslug Texas, and if I remember correctly, they would outslug them late in the contest. I think if I remember correctly, I think it actually took extra innings before they outslugged them ultimately in the middle game of that 3-game series at down there in Arlington. A game, of course, that ultimately, when it was all said and done, the A's won that contest on Tuesday, July the 12th, by the final of 14-7. So another one of those football score games in a baseball game out there this year. But ultimately, after forcing a rubber match, the A's would ultimately succumb to the same outcome that was bestowed upon them after they wrapped up the 3-game series before this series with Houston, as for the second series in a row, they would drop the finale and fail to get a series victory as the Rangers would down them in the finale on Wednesday, July the 13th, by the final of 5-2. That, of course, would bring things up to the last 3 games that were on the road to close out the pre-All-Star break portion of the 2022 MLB schedule, because obviously we've been past the actual halfway point for a while, but, traditionally, I guess they look at, the All-Star break as that kind of official midway point, or however you want to look at it. But, yeah. Anyway, last 3 games of the pre-All-Star break portion of the schedule. This, of course, follows an off day on July the 14th. The A's, of course, closing out those 3 games before the break on the road against the same team that they played the previous weekend in Oakland. Yeah, the Oakland A's closing out things before the All-Star break on the road against the Houston Astros at Minute Maid Park over there in Houston, Texas. And it basically would end up being a little bit different than it was the week before, and I guess, kind of would give the young guys, a little bit of motivation and stuff to look forward to coming out of the break. Take it for however you want to take it in regards to that. The A's would actually win the first game of that 3-game series against the Astros at Minute Maid Park on Friday, July the 15th, as they would take Game 1 by the final of 5-1. Game 2, they would get shut out and lose to Houston on Saturday, July the 16th by the final of 5-0, before ultimately they would see the finale of that 3-game series be a little bit of a back-and-forth, close-scoring affair. But when everything, of course, was all said and done, it would see your Oakland Athletics come out victorious in the finale of that 3-game series in Houston on Saturday, July the 17th, as they would, of course, edge the Astros by one single bloody run and actually pick up a series victory in the process as well, as they would get that win in the game before the All-Star break, defeating Houston last Sunday by the final of 4-3. And that pretty much is how things played out for the A's before the All-Star break. Again, great to obviously see them get a series win against the Houston Astros, given the fact that the Houston Astros, for the time being, are pretty much still doing what the Houston Astros have pretty much done the last several years since they've pretty much taken over the top of the division, whether you like it or not, whether you feel they cheated or not back in 2017. Let's face it, love it, hate it, the Astros are the top dog still in the West. So, when the A's can pull off stuff like a series win, take 2 out of 3, especially with how things have been so far this year, clap, pat on the back. You can't help be happy about that. Now, obviously, it'd be great if they did that more often than not over the course of the year. But again, this is the 2022 Oakland A's we're talking about. So, and again, you would hope and think that, stuff like that would help build a little bit of motivation and confidence. Maybe not so much in the quote-unquote vets, the few vets we have on this roster. I'm more thinking about, the younger guys like a Nick Allen or some of the other younger cats that are on that roster right now. Seeing something like that happen before the break, giving you a little more hope and fuel and energy to maybe just, put on, better performances in the second half. May not necessarily amount to a better performance overall for the team as a whole in the second half, but hey, you never know. Things could happen. Again, I'm not implying that the A's are all of a sudden going to shock the world. I'm just saying, stuff like that, again, you would think would, leave a little bit of an impression on a young team and help build their confidence. But we'll have to wait and see, of course, how things play out during the post-All-Star break portion of the schedule. Reminder, fan question of the night is sitting out there for any of y'all that haven't had a chance to respond to it yet. So if you haven't had a chance to do so, Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. Look for the post or tweet that went up at 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on either the Facebook or Twitter page for AFR. Follow the directions on there to help go about responding to it, respond to it, and I, of course, will read all y'all's responses to that fan question during the final segment of tonight's broadcast. Two-part fan question, by the way, for this edition of the show. Part one being, of course, for those of you out there that knew the late Godfather Griz Jones, we'd love to hear you share a memory that you have with Griz as part of the first question. And then for the second question, if you want to answer that, or for those out there following the show and listening tonight that didn't get a chance to meet Griz during the last several years or at any point, then you can go ahead and answer the second part of the question, which is we want to hear how you think the Oakland Athletics will perform and do during the post-All-Star break portion of the 2022 MLB schedule. On that note, we come back from our next break, we will actually touch bases on what happened with the All-Star break, the All-Star game, as well as the Home Run Derby. And then, of course, take a look at what the A's have on tap heading into the first week of the post-All-Star break portion of the schedule. And, of course, we got a lot more coming at you after that as well. We'll be right back at you here in a bit on show number 313, the All-Star break edition, and, of course, the broadcast dedicated to the late Godfather Griz Jones. You are listening to your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to close out shop here in the first half of this evening's broadcast, show number 313 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, the All-Star break edition of A's Fan Radio, and, of course, a broadcast that is dedicated to our good longtime friend, the late Godfather Griz Jones. It is legally 5150 Corporal Oaktown coming at you, of course, from Dub 6 Studios, located in the Eastmont Hills of Oakland, California. Main man, the boss man, joined me during the beginning of tonight's broadcast, and, of course, the portion of the broadcast where we did our tribute to the late Godfather Griz Jones. Checking in, by the way, from Laney College, where the Oakland Roots were in the midst of playing their contest tonight against the Las Vegas Lights FC out there. So probably definitely something I'm pretty sure Griz was checking it out from above, and he definitely would get appreciation and love that, hey, here we are sitting here talking about the man, and you have a sporting event going on in the beloved city of Oakland in the background. Just something that Griz would love and would have written that, wouldn't have been able to write it better himself. And again, man, I'm going to miss you, and so many of us out there are going to miss that man. And big hole in the city of Oakland, but definitely myself and others will do what we can to keep the energy, passion, and legacy of that man going forward, doing our part with however we go about taking Forever Oakland moving forward, which, again, keep your eyes open for updates on that. We're obviously navigating through everything as far as the fallout of things with Griz's passing, but Forever Oakland, again, we do have plans to do the first Saturday of the month cleanup for August, and I'm pretty sure that will still continue to be a thing going forward. We need some time to sit back and figure out things once the dust settles from all of this. So keep your eyes open for things in regards to that. On that note, let's go ahead and take a look at what went down during the All-Star break just a little over a few days ago. In fact, the first thing, of course, we're going to touch bases on is what went down. Again, if you've somehow forgotten or weren't paying attention, you never know. You might have been off under a rock, out camping at Yosemite, off camping somewhere, flying around. Maybe you stole a spaceship and went to the moon or to Mars. Hey, you never know. There could be stuff going on out there like that. I highly doubt it, but you never know. People do all sorts of crazy crap every now and again. I don't know about the stealing spaceships out there, but I know somebody out there that apparently if they had a fire team, they supposedly could steal nuclear vessels and weapons and all that. I'm joking about that all the way. Don't pay no attention to that. Anyway, for some reason, if you missed out on it, obviously, the Home Run Derby and, of course, the All-Star Game, the 92nd All-Star Game going down at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, the home, of course, of the Los Angeles Dodgers. First thing, of course, we're going to touch bases on is the Home Run Derby and how things ultimately played out with that. After, of course, falling to Pete Alonso in the semifinals of last year's Home Run Derby, Nationals' Juan Soto came back to win this year's Home Run Derby after hitting 19 home runs in the final round against Mariners rookie Julio Rodriguez's 18. Rodriguez turned in a sensational opening 2 rounds, hitting 63 home runs to knock out the likes of Corey Seager and Alonso, who, of course, was the 2-time defending champion of the Derby going into things on Monday night. Soto, meanwhile, faced a surprise opponent in round 2 as 42-year-old Albert Pujols, of course, ended up beating Kyle Schwarber in a stunning upset swing-off in the quarterfinals. Give me a second here. It was the youngest home run derby finale in MLB history as Ken Griffey Jr. watched another young Mariner make the country realize how special he is. Ultimately, however, it was the known quantity in Soto who walked away with the win. The key, while everyone else faltered as the rounds went on, Soto got stronger. He finished regulation in the finale, in the finals with 3 home runs, whereas the rest of the field just couldn't keep pace as the rounds drew on. So enthusiast was Soto. In fact, he tried to keep swinging after locking up the win. While the horn ultimately took him off the field, it was the perfect punctuation to the national superstar, particularly after a tumultuous week for him that leaves his future with his team clouded. Individual totals for all the participants, by the way, in the Home Run Derby, which went down on July the 18th. Julio Rodriguez hit a total of 81. Juan Soto hit a total of 53. Pete Alonso hit a total of 43. Albert Pujols a total of 35. Corey Seager a total of 24. Ronald Acuna Jr. and Kyle Schwarber each hit 19. And Jose Ramirez hit a total of 17. So again, Juan Soto is the winner of your 2002 Home Run Derby. Congratulations to the kid. It actually would have been nice to have seen, Pete Alonso three-peat with that, obviously, because the last time we saw anybody three-peat was Ken Griffey Jr. when he was still doing the Home Run Derby. And if you're wondering how Alonso would have potentially pulled off a three-peat, he won the Derby in 2019. Obviously, there was no Home Run Derby in 2020 because of the shortened COVID season where they only played 60 games. There wasn't even an All-Star break or All-Star game during that shortened season. So 2019, he won the Derby. No Derby in 2022 because of COVID. And then, of course, Alonso won the Derby last year over at Coors Field when the All-Star break went down there. Looked for the three-peat, wasn't able to get it. Juan Soto, of course, ends up winning the T-Mobile 2022 Home Run Derby, and will be really interesting to see where that young man ends up between now and when the trade deadline goes down, because it's pretty loud and clear that it seems like the Nationals are going to plan to deal him, looking for, it sounds like, basically major league ready talent or top-level prospects at this point. My suspicion was, I would basically suspect him to be heading to either the Bronx or to Queens, as the top 2 destinations, but it seems like neither the Yankees or the Mets are willing to unload the farm, at least right now, in regards to that. Maybe in the next coming days they're able to, figure out something and knock out some sort of thing. But, the 2 places that I thought were going to be his most likely destinations don't seem to want to budge on whatever the Nationals want in return at this point. So regardless if it does pan out that he ends up going to one of the New York teams or he ends up somewhere else, or, maybe he ends up somewhere that nobody's suspecting him to go at, this point. I'm not saying here, that'd be stupid and for the Nationals and the A's to do that if they sent Demir, waste a year of that. Come on, man. It'd be nice to have someone like Juan Soto, but let's be real, folks, that ain't going to happen. But basically what I mean by shockers, maybe one of those fringe, teams that's on the fringe of, looking at going in as a wild card, slides in the back door and grabs him as a rental for the rest of the year. That's what I mean by a shocker by that. But pretty much I expect either a team of like the Yankees or the Mets likes, or, basically those divisional leading squads that have the money and the picks and stuff like that to do that. Are they going to do it? We'll have to wait and see. But I do feel that in the coming weeks we're going to end up seeing Juan Soto go somewhere else. But congratulations to the young man for winning the 2022 Home Run Derby. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what went down with the Fall Classic, which, of course, went down the next day at Dodger Stadium over there in Los Angeles, California. Going into the contest, the American League, of course, was riding an 8-game win streak. Basically dating back to about 2012, 2013. That's the last time the National League was able to get a W in the Fall Classic. And during the first early moments of this contest, it kind of looked like maybe, just maybe, the National League would finally kick that losing habit. The NL would jump out to the early lead in this one when they would score the first 2 runs of the contest by either squad in the bottom of the first inning. Unfortunately for them, the NL offense would put up nothing but goose eggs the rest of the way out from the second inning on. The AL offense, kind of similar to the NL, would do all of their scoring in this one in one inning as well. That one lone inning of scoring for the AL would come in the third inning, and they would drop a 3 spot on the NL All-Stars. Basically, no scoring for the AL after the 5th inning. From the 5th inning on, nothing for the NL from the first inning on. So basically the first third of this game, first 1/3 of this contest, it looked like, hey, maybe the NL is going to finally win their first All-Star game in 8 years. 4th inning, spoke too soon on that one. When it was all said and done, of course, it would end up being the AL winning their 9th consecutive All-Star game as they would down the National League All-Stars in this contest by the final of 3-2. AL All-Stars, 3 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. The National League All-Stars, 2 runs, 5 hits, and no errors in this contest. Valdez ended up getting the win for the AL in this one, though some out there argue that technically maybe Paul Blackburn should have gotten the win in this contest. I don't know. Really it'd be interesting to question whoever determines who gets what in these All-Star games for that. But yeah, technically when we were all looking at it, it looked like the Blackburn was a pitcher record when the AL took the lead, but I guess whatever in regards to that. Valdez getting the win for the AL All-Stars in this one. Gosselin taking the L for the NL in this one, and Clace picking up the save at the end of things when it was all said and done for the AL in this one. Home runs in this contest, that's basically pretty much what caused all the scoring. Not really that. I forget. Best got a hit that drove in a run at this point. But one of the 2 NL runs came off of a ding-dong doodle, and that was, of course, off the bat of St. Louis Cardinal first baseman Mike Goldschmidt, who hit a home run in the first inning. Over on the AL side of things, though, of course, all their runs came off of home runs, as you had Mike Stanton hit a home run, and then you also had Buxton hit a home run in this contest as well. Stanton, by the way, ended up getting the MVP honors of this All-Star game. As far as the lone A's representative that went to the contest, that, of course, was pitcher Paul Blackburn. He ended up getting a hold. I guess so. He got credit with a hold for his 1 inning of relief that he pitched in the All-Star game. He went 1 inning, no hits given up, no runs surrendered, no walks, and he punched out 1 in his inning of work. Though it appears and sounds like that when Albert Pujols was up to bat, the catcher might have been trying to kind of set things up for Albert to get a chance to have one more little All-Star moment and bang a ball out of the ballpark. And Albert almost did, just got under it, luckily a little bit too much, and it ended up being a long, deep fly-out for Pujols during that 1 inning of work that Blackburn got in. And Blackburn apparently has been talking about nothing but enjoyment and how he had a great time down there. I know there was a lot of crap made about how he got down there, and, I'm not really going to go into things with that. It's been said, it's discussed, it's been said, it's been discussed, it's been talked about. last couple days. There's no need to get into anything else with that whole situation with the flight and all that. And things got cleared up with that as well. So, yeah, we're going to go and leave that one behind us when it comes to things with that. So, yeah, again, final in the 92nd AL All-Star Game, the 92nd MLB All-Star Game, the AL winning for the 9th time in a row by the final of 3-2. And, of course, that means that we will see the Fall Classic head to the Pacific, or not the Fall Classic, the Midsummer Classic head to the Pacific Northwest next year. As, of course, the 2023 All-Star Game will be going down in the backyard of our good friend Dre 206. Yep, Seattle is where the All-Star Game will take place in 2023. Real quickly as well, obviously the Oakland A's have had a couple games that have taken place during this time as well. I will, however, in regards to those, actually wait until next week's show to recap the games that have gone down since, let's see here, the 21st through today. The A's are obviously playing right now, but we will go ahead and hold off until next week's edition on the show to go ahead and recap things with that doubleheader that went down between your Oakland Athletics and the Detroit Tigers at the Coliseum back on Thursday. The A's and Tigers ended up actually splitting that doubleheader. Again, we will take a look at what went down with that on next week's edition of the show, as well as also take a look at how things play out overall with this entire series with the Texas Rangers. The A's right now are up 3-1 in the bottom of the 8th inning, so they're looking at possibly securing the series victory right here, right now tonight, because they already won last night's game to take the early 1-0 lead in the series. And, of course, the finale of that 3-game set between the Rangers and the Athletics will be going down at the Coliseum tomorrow at 1:07 p.m. So, again, we will be recapping the doubleheader between the Detroit Tigers, which, of course, went down this past Thursday, as well as this 3-game series between your Oakland Athletics and the Rangers. We will recap those games on next week's edition of the show. And along with that, we will also be recapping the next 3 games on tap for the Oakland Athletics after the series against the Rangers wraps up tomorrow night. And that, of course, is just we're just getting nothing but Texas teams, it seems like, for a whole month. You know, we're literally straight Texas teams for 4 weeks with some Motor City Kitties sprinkled in the middle, because after we wrap up things here with the Texas Rangers, we play the Houston Astros yet again. 3-game set between the Astros, which, of course, also will close out this current homestand at the Coliseum for your Oakland Athletics. First game of that 3-game series against Houston is on Monday, July the 25th. That will be at 6:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time down at the Coliseum. It will also be a 6:40 p.m. first pitch start time for the game against the Astros on Tuesday, July the 26th. And, of course, to close out things against Houston, the finale of that 3-game series against the Astros will be at the Coliseum on Wednesday, July the 27th at 12:37 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So A's currently looking at, right now, if this 3-1 lead holds before the night's over with, could be looking at a series victory already, kind of early out the chutes here. Split the doubleheader against the Tigers to open up things in the first half, and it'll be really interesting, of course, to see how the A's fare against Houston after that 3-game series that played out before the All-Star break. And based on what we're seeing here, hey, maybe some of these young kids did get motivated by taking 2 out of 3 games against Houston before the All-Star break. Because, split a doubleheader. You're already up 1 game in this series against Houston, looking at possibly being up 2 games after tonight, and maybe potentially looking at a sweep going into tomorrow. But again, anything can happen between now and before the final out is recorded in tonight's contest down at the Coliseum, which again, it's a 3-1 A's lead in the bottom of the 8th inning at this moment. So again, it's a season that's going to pretty much see the A's probably be at the bottom, as we all suspected, rooted in straight donkey as we suspected. But hey, a little bit of fight coming out of these green and gold youngins to open up things here in the post-All-Star break portion of the schedule. Nothing to get really crazy excited about, unless obviously maybe they call up some of the top prospects and we get a chance to see some of those guys come up here early and do some stuff. And you got to remember too that trade deadline's still around the corner, so there could be some individuals that might be heading out the door before we know it. Some that we might suspect, maybe even some that we're not suspecting to get dealt at the trade deadline. So all that stuff is going to be interesting to see how that all factors in as things play out here in the end of July, heading into the dog days of August, and obviously the last month of the schedule in September, plus the couple of days in October that we will be playing. That's pretty much what things look like on tap right now for your Oakland Athletics heading into the post-All-Star break portion of the schedule. Again, fan question of the night is out there for anyone that hasn't had a chance to respond to it. So if you have not had a chance to do so, Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. Look for the post or tweet that went up at 8:05 Pacific Standard Time on either Twitter or Facebook. Just follow the directions on how to submit your response, post your response to the fan question, and then, of course, I will read those responses to the fan question during the final segment of tonight's broadcast. Two-part fan question for tonight's edition of the show. First part being for those of you out there, of course, that knew the late Godfather Griz Jones. We'd love to hear you share a memory that you have with Griz from back in the day. And the second part that, of course, those of you that know Griz can answer, that, of course, to serve as a question for those of you that don't know Griz to answer. We want to hear your thoughts on how you think the Oakland Athletics will do during the post-All-Star break stretch of the 2022 MLB season. On that note, seventh inning stretch time here on A's Fan Radio. We come back for the infamous X-rated second half of the show. We will take a look at the current standings around Major League Baseball. We will also take a look and see who the Oakland Athletics took in the 2022 MLB draft. And, of course, we will also see what the Oakland Roots have been up to before the night is over with. And, of course, before I get into reading y'all's responses to the fan question of the night. Smoke them if you got them. Fire up that medical research. Pour yourself a cold one. We'll be right back at you here in a bit for the second half of show number 213, the All-Star Break edition of A's Fan Radio. Tonight's broadcast, of course, is dedicated to the late Godfather Griz Jones. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to what we historically have referred on here for over the last 19-plus years as the infamous X-rated second half of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics. A's talk from the fans' point of view since 2003. It is show number 313, the All-Star Break edition of A's Fan Radio. And again, tonight's broadcast, of course, being dedicated to the late Godfather Griz Jones. It is legally 5150 Corporal Oaktown coming at you, of course, from Dub 6 Studios, the home base and home base HQ, whatever you want to call it, and also my home where I sleep and do stuff day in and day out up in the Eastmont Hills of Oakland, California. Main man, the boss man, of course, joined me for a brief moment during the first segment of tonight's show, during, of course, the portion of the show where we did our tribute and our remembrance of the late Godfather Griz Jones here on the broadcast. So if you didn't have a chance to see that when we did it, fear not, you can obviously catch the recording of this broadcast when it's all said and done and check that out, as well as also check out things with that when the YouTube version of this broadcast gets posted. On that note, let's go ahead and get on into things with what we normally lead off the infamous X-rated second half of the show with during the baseball season, and is, of course, taking a look at what the standings look like at this point in time around Major League Baseball. As far as I know, there's only one game still going on right now, and that's the game at the Coliseum, which top of the ninth, no outs. The A's are up 3-1 at the moment. It'll be interesting to see if they hold the lead here, if you end up having a repeat of the shenanigans that went down last night. Good news is Jay Kent, number 62, is not out there, so, hey, they got smart and aren't using him for a day. The reality is they need to just get rid of that yoo-hoo anyway. Get rid of he who shall not be named. DFA Trevino. Anyway, current standings around Major League Baseball look like this at this point in time. We'll start off, of course, over in the American League because the AL is the league that the Oakland A's call home. And we, of course, will begin with things in the AL in the division that your Oakland Athletics call home. And that is, of course, the AL West, where the Houston Astros, who, of course, will be coming into town to face the Oakland Athletics after this series against the Rangers wraps up tomorrow, are still on top of the West. They are 63-32 at the moment. The Seattle Mariners are in the second spot, so definitely probably a lot of hype and happiness going on with our boy Trey our homie Dre up there in the 206, as the Mariners are currently 51-44 in the second spot in the AL West. The Texas Rangers are in the middle of the division right now with a record of 42-50. The Anaheim Angels, who have just flat fallen off the face of the earth at this point, are in the fourth spot with a record of 39-55. Your Oakland Athletics are still last in the division, currently with a record of 34-62. But hey, maybe the Angels somehow end up getting worse than us than pass us, and that'd be crazy if that ended up happening. If the Angels ended up being worse than the A's. Just crazy how Anaheim just, looked like, maybe they're finally going to be that team on paper that they are. Nope, nosedive again like it always is down there. Too bad, so sad for the Anaheim Devils as they've fallen off the face of the earth out here in the AL West. Let's go and take a look at what things are looking like around the rest of the American League in this point in time. Over in the AL East, the New York Yankees are still on top with a record of 65-31. Haven't been really the ass beaters that they were as of the last couple of weeks. They're currently 4-6 in their last 10 games that they have played. They're still sitting on top, but kind of, closest team to them is within 12 games, so they kind of still got a good, decent stranglehold, I guess you can say, on the division. As far as that race for the first place spot in the AL as a whole, that's kind of, closed a little bit. But yeah, the Yankees still sitting on top of the East with a record of 65-31. Second place team that's 12 games back of them right now at 52-42 are the Tampa Bay Rays. The Toronto Blue Jays are in the third spot at 52-43. The Boston Red Sox, man, I'm pretty sure some of y'all saw what happened with that game last night, where it basically looked like the Toronto Argonauts came into town and stomped the Patriots 28-5 at Fenway. 28-5 was what the final was between the Blue Jays and the Red Sox last night, and a team that for a while was starting off slow, then looked like they were heating up, and now it's at the point where maybe y'all should be considering being sellers at this point. Boston one game above 500 right now at 48-47. At the bottom of the division right now at an even 500 is a team that surprisingly has caught hot as of late and is 7-3 in their last 10 games. Who would have had the Baltimore Orioles playing 500 baseball at this point in time? Not me. Definitely not me, and I'm pretty sure not a lot of you out there. So, it's going to be real interesting to see if that Baltimore squad can maybe sneak their way into a wild card or something or another as far as things happen. And just like with the the Angels, man, it's going to be real interesting to see if the Red Sox can recover, if they just continue in a nosedive on their end. And final at the Coliseum, by the way, the A's did defeat the Rangers by the final 3-1. As mentioned, though, we will be breaking down those first two games of the Rangers series as well as the doubleheader of the Tigers series on next week's edition of the show. Just so that way we have a full week's worth of A's content like we normally would as we try to get back into the swing of things of doing the show on a weekly basis next week. Finally, to close out the league standings in the American League, here are the current standings over in the AL Central, where the Minnesota Twins sit on top with a record of 51-44. The Cleveland Guardians are in the second spot with a record of 48-45 and are only 2 games back. The Chicago White Sox just still can't make up their minds on what they're going to do, if they're going to actually be the team that everyone thought they were going to be and somehow get a grasp back and hold on the division, if they're going to be in the middle of the pack, or hey, let's be like the Red Sox and the Angels and fall off the face of the earth. 47-48 right now. They're a game under 500 and 4 games back of the Twins right now in that AL Central race. So obviously still plenty of time, but you got to be careful and make sure you're not squandering away that time you have between now and the end of the season trying to catch up ground on Cleveland and Minnesota. The Detroit Tigers, who of course split a doubleheader with the A's a couple days ago, are in the 4th spot in the Central with a record of 38-57, and the Kansas City Royals are still in the basement of the AL Central with a record of 37-57. And obviously, since it is post-All-Star break, what the hell? Let's go ahead and take a look at what the wild card standings look like for the first time here in 2022. Obviously, they have things set up for the wild card standings to appear before the All-Star break now on MLB.com, but I've kind of always held off on wanting to take a look at what the wild card standings look like in any sort of form until after the All-Star break. Well, yeah, here we are after the All-Star break, so let's go ahead and take a look at what the AL wild card would look like at this point in time. The way things are shaping up right now, and if you remember, of course, there's going to be 3 wild card teams this go-around, with the top-seeded team getting a bye week, I guess you can say, or a bye from the wild card round series. So 3 potential wild cards that could come into the factor of things right now, with the top wild card spot right now belonging to the Tampa Bay Rays, the second spot belonging to the Toronto Blue Jays, and the third spot right now belonging to the Seattle Mariners. So if the season were to end right now, your 3 AL wildcard teams would be the Tampa Bay Rays, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Seattle Mariners. Here's what things are looking like on the outside of that wildcard picture. The Cleveland Guardians are 2 games out from the last wildcard spot. The Boston Red Sox 3 games out. The Baltimore Orioles 3.5 out. The Chicago White Sox 4 out. And the Texas Rangers are 8 out from that last wild card spot. I'm not even going to bother to touch on the teams that are in double-digit numbers over there with the wild card numbers and all that. So, yeah, obviously still a long way to go. I mean, it's still kind of really looking like the winners in the West and the East are pretty much set in stone. God forbid some sort of collapse by either of those teams. Still can potentially see a mashup and change up of things in the Central. That's kind of really the only close race as far as any of the divisions go right now over in the AL. Obviously, it's probably going to be real interesting to see, more interesting maybe to see how the wild card teams play out and who ends up being where and places what and all that. So, yeah, 2 divisions that kind of look locked in stone, 1 division that doesn't look locked in stone yet, and basically everybody else fighting for the wild card spots over on the AL side of things. Let's go ahead and move from the junior circuit to the senior circuit and see how things are shaping up right now with the standings over on the National League side of things. Beginning with the NL standings, we, of course, will start off first over in the NL East, where the other New York team, the squad that lives over in Queens, is still sitting on top of the division. The New York Mets at 58-37. Only a half-game lead, though, over the defending world champion Atlanta Braves, who are in the second spot right now at 58-38. The Philadelphia Phillies are in the third spot, 8.5 out from the first-place Mets at 49-45. The Miami Marlins are in the fourth spot with a record of 44-50. And the Washington Nationals, who, of course, it is imminent and expected that within the coming days between now and the trade deadline, which I believe is August 2nd this year, because the commissioner gets to determine the trade deadline now, I guess, apparently. Imminent that last place, 31-65 Washington Nationals squad will, between now and the 2nd of August, trade Juan Soto. Let's go ahead and move from the East to the NL Central and see how things are shaping up over there. Still the Milwaukee Brewers on top, as it has been for, it seems like, the majority of this 2022 season over there in the NL Central. They're 52-43. The St. Louis Cardinals have pretty much sat right there in that second spot for the majority of the season as well. There was a brief time where the Cardinals did kind of briefly lead the division, but pretty much that 1-2 spot has not changed at all as the season's dragged on. St. Louis currently a game and a half back of the division-leading Brewers right now at 51-45. The Pittsburgh Pirates have pretty much locked into that third-place spot in the Central, though they're 15 games under 500 right now at 40-55. The Chicago Cubs are in the fourth spot with a record of 37-57. And sitting in last place still over in the NL Central with a record of 35-58 are the Cincinnati Reds. That finally, of course, brings us, before, of course, we take a look at what the wild card standings look like over on the NL side, brings us to the standings over in the good old wild NL West, where the Los Angeles Dodgers have jumped out to a 10.5 game lead over the second place San Diego Padres. LA currently sitting on a record of 63-30. Seems like a couple weeks, just barely a week or two ago, that San Diego was within striking distance of the Dodgers. They actually even had the lead briefly in the division a couple weeks before that. But after a 5-5 stretch in their last 10 games and sitting at 54-42, the San Diego Padres are looking at a 10.5 game distance between themselves and the Dodgers right now. Sitting 15.5 games back of the first-place Dodgers in the middle of the pack with a record of 48-46 are the San Francisco Giants. The Colorado Rockies are in the fourth spot with a record of 43-52. And rounding out things in the Wild NL West in the last spot with a record of 42-57 are the Arizona Diamondbacks. And, hey, we went ahead and we did it for the AL side. We'll go ahead and do it, of course, for the NL side as well. And see how things are looking right here, right now with the wild card standings over on the National League side of things. So if the season were to end today, the Atlanta Braves would be the top wild card team, the San Diego Padres would be the second wild card team, and the St. Louis Cardinals would have control of that third and final wild card spot. On the outside looking in at this point in time right now is the Philadelphia Phillies, who are at game back of the last wild card spot. The San Francisco Giants are 2 games back. The Marlins 6 games back. The Rockies 7.5 games back. And the Diamondbacks are 8 back. And just like with the AL, I'm not even going to bother touching with the teams that are double-digit numbers out at this point in time for the wild card spot. And I pretty expect sooner rather than later that the likes of the Diamondbacks, the Rockies, and the Marlins will go into the double-digit range as well, and it basically will be Atlanta, San Diego, St. Louis, Philadelphia, and San Francisco probably battling it out for wild card spots over on that side of things. So kind of a little bit of a different story over on the National League side of things than it is over on the AL side of things. You kind of really got only one division right now that, if things continue to play out the way they are right now, that looks like it's a lock for who's going to take that, and that's how things are looking right now over in the good old wild NL West. Both San Diego, San Francisco, they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. Dodgers are 9-1 in their last 10 games, which is why they've been able to put that 10.5 game distance between themselves and San Diego, and a 15.5 game distance between themselves and the Giants. So, I mean, prototypical of how things with the NL West have played out the last several years. I expect that to still be a dogfight nonetheless as the season stretches on. I honestly think, and I could be wrong about this, you never know, I personally think that San Diego will be able to maintain holding kind of a race there with the Dodgers. I think the Giants will fall out unless they make some sort of move. One of those teams I mentioned that could have the means and necessities to bring in Juan Soto. You do something like that, then you can potentially overtake San Diego and set up the good old traditional Dodgers-Giants matchup rivalry for the division as the season draws to a close. But it'll be really interesting to see how those three teams, what they do trade-wise to try to counter the moves and stuff done by each other over there. But yeah, really that's kind of only the division where right now it looks like the Dodgers could run away with it, but that easily can change within a stretch of 5 to 10 games as well. At one point thought that the Mets were going to run away with the NL East, and that's changed as well. Where that looked like it was a lock that the Mets were going to run away with that, and now here we are, just a few days after the All-Star break, and the defending world champions are a half game back, which you should expect. The defending world champs should be in there trying to duke it out and want to continue to fight to be able to have a shot at, defending their world title in 2022. Going to be real interesting to see if the Phillies stay into that or if the Phillies still are in a factor for the wild card race. Again, that's a team that's dealing with just having fired their manager a couple months ago, and yet somehow it seems like they've played better since the manager was fired. So it'll be really interesting to see with that. And I guess maybe the really only thing you can say for sure about the Central is it's probably either going to be the Brewers or either the Cardinals that win that division. Could be a toss-up with that. Brewers are 4-6 in their last 10 games. The Cardinals is the reversal of that. They're 6-4. But the Brewers still able to maintain that game-and-a-half distance and sit on top of the division at this point in time. So, yeah, not as much of a lock on the NL side of things as it was a couple weeks ago. It's still, though, looking like divisions over on the AL side are going to be going to who you suspect. But, yeah, while that was kind of the look and makeup of things on the NL side of things a couple weeks ago, has completely changed as we, of course, go into the All-Star break and come out of the All-Star break. And, yeah, this is going to be real interesting to see how some of those races, not just the divisional races, but even the wild card races with the, a fact that you have 2 additional teams now. Going to be real interesting to see how those play out and what, those teams that still might seriously think they're in the playoff hunt do. Even the teams that, think they're in the hunt and may not really be in the hunt, if they're going to try to do anything or be as willing to let go of cats. Just going to be real crazy and interesting to see how the coming weeks take shape as the season goes out. And just, with some of these races here, it's going to be interesting to see how things look when we come back at you and take a look at the standings next Thursday and how things change over between now and then. But, yeah, like I said, some divisions it looks like a lock when it comes to things. Others, not so quite set in stone yet at this point in time. And that concludes this show's edition of the standings around Major League Baseball. Friendly reminder that there is a fan question of the night sitting out there for those of you that haven't had a chance to respond to it yet. If you haven't, Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio is where you can get that response to that fan question of the night. Submit it. Just look for the post or tweet that went up at approximately 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and follow the directions on that post or tweet on how to go about responding to the fan question. Submit your responses, and, of course, yours truly will read those during the final segment of tonight's broadcast, which, of course, will be right after I do the Roots segment during the final portion of tonight's show. Excuse me, as I'm getting a little bit gassy here all of a sudden late, I guess, from the dinner I had before the broadcast. 2-part fan question for those of you that haven't had a chance to get around to it, by the way, for this edition of the show. Those 2 questions being, one, for those of you that, of course, knew the late Godfather Griz Jones, we'd love to hear you share a memory that you have from Griz from back in the day. And, of course, for those of you that want to answer it that know Griz, or for those of you that didn't know Griz, the second part to that 2-part fan question for y'all to take a crack at and respond to, as well as we want to hear what you think, or how you think, I should say, the Oakland Athletics will do when they head on into the I'm getting all tongue-twisted here. Your thoughts on how the Oakland Athletics will perform during the post-All-Star break portion of the 2022 MLB schedule. My bad on that. I got a little bit of a brain fart on that one. So, again, 2-part fan question, Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio to submit your responses to that. We come back, we'll go ahead and take a look at the 20 individuals that your Oakland Athletics drafted in this year's MLB draft. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back at you here in a bit on show number 313, the All-Star Break edition of A's Fan Radio, which, of course, is dedicated to our good friend, the late Godfather Griz Jones. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to roll on down the road on this Saturday night up in the Eastmont Hills. It is show number 313, the All-Star Break edition of your number one source for everything and anything under Oakland Athletics. A's talk from the fans' point of view since 2013, and, of course, a broadcast that tonight is dedicated to our good longtime friend, the late Godfather Griz Jones. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to A's Fan Radio. It is legally 5150 Corporal Oaktown coming at you, of course, from Dub 6 Studios in the Eastmont Hills of Oakland, California, overlooking the Coliseum on a night in which the Oakland Athletics were victorious, by the way, by the final of 3-1. Yeah, it was that rare time where we actually did a show in the middle of a game going on. Been a while since that happened. I want to say the last time we did, and we usually always try to actually avoid doing that when we can. I want to say the last time we did that was probably during a spring training matchup against the Giants back when La Estrelita was still open, probably like 2016-17 is last time I remember that happening. I actually thought it was a day game today. Shows you that I didn't bother to look at the schedule as far as today went when we rescheduled this from Saturday. But it happens. It is what it is. Hey, it's, we're not going to do that all the time. Again, I try to avoid doing shows in the middle of the games, but obviously, given the circumstances of what happened earlier in the week, kind of had no control over it. It happened this week. It is what it is. We dealt with it, went through it, and we'll get back to doing the normal shindig next Thursday when we come out with the next edition of the show. Let's go ahead and continue on down the road here in the infamous X-rated second half of the broadcast tonight, where we're still talking a little bit of baseball at this point in time. As we real quickly will go ahead and take a look at who the Oakland Athletics drafted in the 2022 MLB draft, and how many, if any, of them have signed yet with your Oakland Athletics. As, of course, each club has until 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday, August the 1st, to come to terms with their draft selections. If a player has exhausted his collegiate eligibility, he can sign at any time up until 1 week prior to next year's draft. Draft and follow picks, high school and junior college players selected after the 10th round who attended a 2-year college after the draft can sign with their selecting teams for up to $250,000 up until a week prior to the following year's draft. Total bonus pool of $8,320,200, and the draft class was ranked 17th by MLB. First pick that the A's took, of course, their first pick, 19th overall, was catcher Daniel Suzak out of Arizona. He has not yet agreed to terms on a contract with the A's, but if he were, his contract's going to be valued somewhere above the North Point range of 3.5 mil when he ends up coming to signing things. Pick number 2, 56th overall, was Henry Bolte, who's an outfielder from Palo Alto High School, so a local boy from right here in the Bay Area, who could probably be, most likely, if he ends up signing, will probably sound for somewhere around $1.3 million. He has not yet come to terms on an agreement on terms for a contract yet. CBB pick, 69th overall, was Clark Elliott, an outfielder out of Michigan. He has also not yet agreed to terms on a contract yet, and pretty much it looks like, as of this point in time, just to give you the heads up, none of the draft picks have signed contracts yet, but they have between now and August 1st to do so. So basically just going over who the A's picked. Third pick, 95th overall, was outfielder Colby Thomas from Mercer. Fourth pick, or coming fourth, 124th overall, is Jacob Waiters, who's a right-handed pitcher from West Virginia. Coming in at 154th overall pick was Jack Perkins, a right-handed pitcher out of Indiana. Taking with their 6th-round pick, 184th overall, was Brianna Malone, a third baseman out of Oregon. Taking her in the 7th round with the 14th overall pick was Yinel Laboy, who's a third baseman out of the Carlos Beltran Baseball Academy in Puerto Rico. Going in the 8th round with the 244th overall pick was Micah Dallas, who's a right-handed pitcher out of Texas A&M. Going at the 9th, sorry, I was getting all tongue twisted there. With the 274th overall pick and their 9th round pick, the A's took Caden Trenclill, who's an outfielder out of Oklahoma State. In the 10th round with the 304th overall pick, Brock Roden, who's a second baseman out of Wichita State, was taken. The 11th round, the A's used the 334th overall pick on Christian Oppor, O-P-P-O-R, who's a left-handed pitcher out of Columbus High School. In the 12th round, the A's selected T.J. CZYZ, who's a right-handed pitcher out of Coomas River College. In the 13th round, the A's took Jake Peffings, who's a right-handed pitcher out of Oregon State. 14th round, they selected Jamila Rosando Jr., who's a shortstop out of Leadership Christian Academy, located in Puerto Rico. 15th round, they took Mark Adamak, right-handed pitcher out of Arkansas. 16th round, they took Blaze Pontes, who's a right-handed pitcher out of Hawaii. 17th round, Jake Garland was selected. He's a right-handed pitcher out of Miami. In the 18th round, the A's took Vince Riley, right-handed pitcher out of Grand Canyon University. 19th round, they took Tommy Stevenson, who's a first baseman out of Missouri Southern State College. And their 20th and final pick in this year's MLB draft was Derek True, who's a right-handed pitcher out of Cal Poly. How the bonus pools and pick values work, just for a little background on some of this stuff. Each choice in the first 10 rounds comes with an assigned value with a total of a club's selection equaling what it can spend in those rounds without incurring a penalty. If a player taken in the top 10 rounds doesn't sign, his pick's value gets subtracted from his team's pool. Clubs near the top of the draft often spend less than the assigned value for those choices and use the savings to offer more money to later selections. Teams that exceeded their bonus pool face a penalty. Clubs that outspend their allotment by 0 to 5% pay a 75% tax on the overage. At higher thresholds, clubs lose future picks, a first rounder, and a 75% tax for surpassing their pool by more than 5 and up to 10%, a first and second rounder, and 100% tax for more than 10 and up to 50%, and 2 first rounders and 100% tax for more than 15%. So, yeah, that's how things look right there. And just a little last bit of numbers right here. Bonus pools for the clubs on this, by the way. The A's, again, had $8,320,200 tied up in this. So it's going to be interesting to see if they end up spending all that and if they end up signing all these draft picks, or if any of them decide to not sign, wait around, try to go higher next year's draft. This is the real crapshoot. Billy Beane always talking about, the playoffs are a crapshoot. Now, it's the draft that's the real crapshoot in baseball, and I really wish that he would have learned that instead of trying to tell us, the playoffs, screw you. It's the draft. It's a crapshoot right there. And, will any of these guys ultimately end up coming up here, contributing to the Major League club, be future potential A's stars that end up becoming stars elsewhere? God, I hate saying that, but hey, that's unfortunately what we're known for at this point until we somehow kick that damn habit finally. It's going to be real interesting to see if any of these 20 guys do end up signing with the team, and even after that, if they ultimately end up being any sort of, factor or presence in the fold of, the future parts of this team. Maybe there is a guy in there that is, going to be a future part of this club, or maybe a couple guys in there. There could also easily be guys sprinkled in there that are used as parts to bring another body here through a trade. And obviously, as we all know, there's the potential for there to be some busts in there amongst this group of 20. It's just, it is what it is. That's just, again, the draft's the crapshoot. I never understood why Billy Beane tried to convince everybody that the playoffs were a crapshoot. Nah, the MLB draft is a crapshoot. And again, it'll be really interesting. It'd be great and outstanding to see all 20 of these guys be some sort of contributing factor to this club in the future. But that's just not how it is. That's not how the cookie crumbles. Everything will happen. These guys will obviously have stretches where they do great, but there will also be times where these guys are going to have stretches of adversity where they may end up questioning if they want to continue down that path to Major League Baseball, or hang it up at A ball, double A ball, even at triple A level, just come up short. A lot of stuff can happen, in that grind of, trying to get from the minors to the show. So it'll be real interesting to see how these 20 individuals potentially factor into things and how their Major League Baseball paths end up playing out to them. So best of luck to you, 20 individuals that were drafted by the Oakland Athletics, and obviously any news on any of these individuals signing or not signing, we'll keep you posted on future shows between now and when the deadline, of course, for that goes down on August the 1st. On that note, final reminder of the fan question tonight's about to hit you upside the head right now, which means, hey, it's almost time for the final segment of tonight's edition of the show. So last chance between now and before I wrap up the Roots segment here in the final segment for you to get your responses in for tonight's fan question of the night. So if you haven't done so yet, make your way over to Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio right here, right now. Look for that post or tweet that went up at 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on either Facebook or Twitter. Follow the directions on how to go about submitting your response. Put your response up, and I will read your responses shortly in a while once, of course, I wrap up the Roots segment following the break during the final segment of tonight's show. Two-part fan question for tonight's broadcast. One, obviously, for those of you that knew the late Godfather Griz Jones, we want to hear you share a memory that you, of course, shared with Griz. And for those of you out there that may not have known Griz, hey, there is a question for you to answer as well. We want to hear your thoughts on how you think the Oakland Athletics will do in the post-All-Star break portion of the 2022 MLB season. Again, final break coming at you. Roots segment, responses to the fan question, and, of course, my final thoughts of the night coming at you here in a bit on show number 313, the All-Star break edition of AsFANRAdio, dedicated to the late Godfather Griz Jones. All righty, y'all. Final segment of tonight's broadcast, getting ready to slap y'all upside the head here, which means, hey, again, last chance for y'all to get your responses in for the fan question of the night if you haven't had a chance to do so. So y'all better do that right now as I'm getting ready to ramble on about the Roots here in a bit. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of tonight's edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics. A's Talk from the fans' point of view since 2003. It is, of course, show number 313, the All-Star break edition of AsFANRAdio. Tonight's broadcast, of course, being dedicated to the late Godfather Griz Jones. It is the Legally 5150 Corporal Oaktown, getting ready to take y'all on out before the evening's over with here from Dub 6 Studios up in the Eastmont Hills of Oakland, California. Main man, the boss man, who, of course, forms the other half of what's become known on this show as the dynamic duo over the years, checked in earlier during the first segment of the show when we, of course, did our tribute segment to the late Godfather Griz Jones. Alrighty, let's go ahead and check in and see what the Oakland Roots have been up to since last time we came at you here on the show. A couple of games going down since we last came at you. I want to say a total of 3 if you include the game that's going on tonight, which is probably wrapped up by now, and I'll probably end up just including the final score from that game at the end of things when it's all said and done as well. Sorry, y'all. You're all probably seeing that image randomly blow up there on the screen. I forgot to adjust that. But anyway, to begin things here on the Roots segment, we, of course, will go back to a game that happened up in Sacramento back on July the 9th as the what's becoming kind of basically a rivalry matchup between these two teams in the USL right now. That, of course, being Sacramento Republic FC and your Oakland Roots SC, turned into a great rivalry in the USL right now, and be definitely interesting to see maybe that rivalry carry over to the next level in professional soccer someday in the future. The Roots and Sacramento Republic would play to a 3-3 draw up in Sacramento back on July the 9th. But a great contest up there. The homegrown hooligans, the Function, and the Oakland 68s, and a whole bunch of the other Roots fan supporter groups made the trek out there. And, of course, you see them in the picture there. You probably see some familiar faces that you know from A's games and or Roots games that are standing around in that very shot right there. So the Roots fans bringing the noise as always when they go out on the road for some of these road games, and strongly supporting and bringing the noise in what ultimately would be a 3-3 draw for your Oakland Roots back on July the 9th. After that, of course, the Roots' next match that would go down after that would be a home contest at their home field of Laney College over here in Oakland, California. That was a game, of course, that went down back on July the 16th. That would see the El Paso Locomotive come into town. And unfortunately for El Paso, it would be one ugly-ass night on the pitch for them, but one hell of a great night on the other side of things for the Oakland Roots. The Roots would score 4 goals in this contest and ended up scoring all 4 of the goals in the first half of the contest. So basically 4-0 for the first half, nothing from them in the second half, and obviously nothing from El Paso in the second half either, as the Roots are able to shut out El Paso and get the victory back on the 16th over at Laney College as they defeat the El Paso Locomotive by the final of 4-0. And that, of course, brings us to the game that went down earlier tonight, and it looks like things have wrapped up with that contest again. But again, I'll probably include this in next week's broadcast as well, as the Roots unfortunately lost tonight to the Las Vegas Lights, falling in that contest earlier this evening at Laney College by the final of 2-0. The Roots will have one more game on tap between now and when we come at you for the next edition of the show next week on the 28th. And that, of course, is a home game that will go down the day before the next edition of the show, as the Roots will have a Wednesday night game coming at you on Wednesday, July the 27th, 7 p.m. matchup over there at Laney College, as the Phoenix Rising FC will be making their way into town to take on the Roots. So again, next home game and next contest for the Oakland Roots will be this upcoming Wednesday, July the 27th, 7 p.m. match time start over there at Laney College between your Oakland Roots and Phoenix Rising FC. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what the 2022 let me start over that again. Let's go ahead and take a look now at what the standings look like over in the Western Conference of the USL. Of course, obviously, the Western Conference is the conference that the Roots reside in. Some of you, in case you haven't been following around things with the standings this year, if you remember last year, they actually had a divisional setup for the standings. They switched it up this year and just basically went with a straight conference standing. So Eastern Conference, Western Conference, top 7 teams with the best 7 records end up going on to the USL postseason. And as soon as things, of course, load here on my end from the USL website, maybe they're just waiting on, loading in some of the games that are going on in here right now. I'm just waiting on that, so that way I can bring you all up to speed on what the current standings are in the Western Conference. But, good old technology, once again, is holding up the corporal here. There we go. It's finally loading. Still loading. Great radio, listening to Keith say loading. Waiting on the standings to load here for the Western Conference of the USL. And it's still loading. Come on, man. Yeah, man. Don't you just love this when you're in the middle of trying to do something and technology's taking its sweet time to load? There we go, finally. Current Western Conference standings in the USL are as follows. San Antonio FC is sitting on top right now in the first position with a record of 15-3-1 for a total of 46 points. San Diego Loyal FC is in the second spot with a record of 12-5-4 for a total of 40 points. Tied with them for 40 points right now, as well as Colorado Springs Switchback, who are 13-7-1. Again, they have 40 points just like San Diego Loyal does right now. In the fourth spot is New Mexico United, who are 9-3-8 for a total of 35 points. El Paso Locomotive, who, of course, the Roots defeated last time out when they faced off by the final of 4-0. They're in the fifth spot right now with a record of 9-8-6 for a total of 33 points. Las Vegas Lights, who, of course, defeated your Oakland Roots tonight over at Laney College. They're in the sixth spot right now with a record of 9-7-4 for a total of 31 points. The Sacramento Republic FC is currently sitting in what would be the seventh and last playoff spot in the Western Conference with a record of 8-5-6 for a total of 30 points. Technically, LA Galaxy 2 is tied with them for 30 points, but they have the Galaxy as being on the outside looking in at the moment in the eighth spot with a record of 9-10-3 for a total of 30 points. Your Oakland Roots still themselves on the outside looking in, as they're still sitting in that ninth spot in the Western Conference with a record of 6-7-10 for a total of 28 points. Rio Grande Valley FC is in the 10th spot with a record of 7-11-3 for a total of 24 points. Tied with them for 10th place is the very team that will be coming into town this upcoming Wednesday to play the Roots, that of course being Phoenix Rising FC, who are 7-10-3 for 24 points as well. In the 12th spot is Orange County SC, who is 5-9-7 for a total of 22 points. And in the 13th and last place spot in the Western Conference with a record of 6-11-2 for a total of 20 points is Monterey Bay FC. So, there's still some time for you, the Roots, to make up some ground and still get into one of those last playoff spots. But, the reality of things is, can't keep losing games. You lose games, that's no points at all, period. You don't get anything to add to that point total. And you really kind of need to avoid the ties going forward as well. I mean, yes, granted, 1 point's better than nothing because you get 1 point from a tie, but, what you need right now is wins at this point in time to try to get back into the thick of things with this. So, that's really what they need at this point. It's a team that has 10 ties up to this point in time in the 2022 USL season, and just you sit there and wonder how many of those 10 ties could have potentially have helped out things a little bit more if they would have gotten W's in that game. Maybe they're a little higher up on things. Maybe they're more of a middle to the top of the road lock for a playoff position. But it's basically looking like how things came down to it last year, which is basically the Oakland Roots are going to have to grab themselves by the cojones and catch fire down the stretch like they did last year. Definitely feel that they're capable of doing it. It will be interesting to see if they do it, and definitely y'all should go out there and check out and see if they do it or not. And, regardless what happens, hey, Oakland Roots games are a blast. You will have fun. They basically are sellouts to damn near always sellouts, and, just go out there and support the cause, man. It's a great team that harnesses the power of Oakland and the city's soul and all that for, fortunate good, or I forgot the exact saying, and again, it's a team that you can say kind of captures the essence of the late Godfather Griz Jones to some extent. A team that tries to put its fans and its city first out there. So yeah, definitely if you haven't had a chance to go and check out the Oakland Roots, there's I think 4 or 5 games left after this. There's about 10 games left overall in the schedule, but there's less amount of home games left versus road games. So definitely make your way out there. I'm probably not going to make it out to the game on the 27th, which is next week, but I'll probably look at trying to make it out there for one of the games over there at Laney next month. But yeah, definitely if you haven't had a chance to go and check out the Oakland Roots, and of course for more information on the Oakland Roots, you can check things out for them at www.oaklandrootssc.com. Be sure, of course, also to follow them across all the various social media platforms out there as well. On that note, if you haven't had a chance to do so, guess what? As Ballistic Bill would say, your time is up, and it is time now to check to see if anyone got in a response for the fan question of the night for this edition of the show. As always, we try to put a fan question out for every edition of A's Fan Radio, just because that gives a chance for the broadcast, not the broadcasters, that gives a chance for y'all out there that listen to the show to chime in, say your thoughts, because we don't have call-in capability yet. I definitely would still, at some point in the future, love to have call-in capability, but yeah, we just haven't gotten to setting that up at this point in time. So until then, this is the closest thing we have to call-in capability, is basically giving you all this fan question of the night stuff to chime in, submit your thoughts, all that good stuff, and then be able to read them here on the show. Usually always try to put them out roughly about 4 or 5 p.m., and then obviously, if you miss that initial first post of the fan question, then just you always keep your eye open around 8:05-ish, 5 minutes after the show broadcast starts, then usually a repost will go up in regards to that. Again, fan question of the night for this edition of A's Fan Radio. It was a 2-part question, of course, where we wanted to hear from all y'all out there. The first part being is good old same old. You can't even get through the fan questions with see if there's loading or not without those loading or not. So, yeah, now I'm sitting here waiting on Facebook and Twitter to load all that stuff on there to see if anybody chimed into that. There we go. Fan question of the night, of course, for show number 313 was a 2-part fan question. Part 1 being, for those that knew the late Godfather Griz Jones, we wanted you to share a memory you had with him. And then the second part being, we wanted to hear your thoughts on how the Oakland Athletics will fare during the post-All-Star break stretch of the 2022 season. Not seeing any responses as of right now to the Facebook, or excuse me, to the Twitter version of the Facebook, the fan question of the night. Scrolling through the notifications, maybe just to check to see if maybe somebody threw something in another spot that it needs to be as well. So So yeah, it doesn't look like any responses to the fan question of the night over on Twitter. Just give me a second here to see if any of y'all responded to the fan question over on our Facebook page, which right now, again, just like everything else, seems to be taking forever and loading. God, you would think by now, since technically I'm supposed to have high-speed internet, that it would be high-speed internet. Yeah, so much for that. Thanks a lot, Xfinity. Anyway, no responses to either fan question of the night. You know what? I'm not even going to trip off that. Completely understandable. Kind of understandable given the fact, during, show going on in the middle of the game, and also just maybe, just some of y'all just didn't want to respond. Just want to tune in and listen. I'm not gonna get on y'all this time, but this is the one time where I'll let things slide. With no responses to the fan question of the night. That will change, though, come next week. I'll start getting annoyed if none of y'all respond to that fan question again next week. But I'll let it go this week, given the circumstances of things that went down. Anyway, as always, for the latest information pertaining to your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, be sure to check us out at AsFANRadio.com. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/AsFANRadio. Follow us on Twitter at As_fan_radio. You can, of course, catch past editions of the show and more over on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to that as well, so that way whenever new content gets put up on there, you get notified of it. And, of course, as always, unless some other notification goes out to tell you otherwise, you can always catch all our live show broadcasts on Twitch TV, which, of course, is where you can catch the next edition of the show, which, of course, is show number 314, which will go down on Thursday, July the 28th at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here from Dub6 Studios on twitch.tv/AsFanRadio, which, of course, means now it is time for my final thoughts of the night. Again, thank you all, as always, for tuning in to this fan-produced A's podcast. Thank you for all of you out there that just have been continuing to send in your thoughts, your prayers, and your well wishes to everyone that's been so closely affected by the passing of our good longtime friend, the late Godfather Griz Jones. And thank you, of course, as all to those of you out there that are helping share the information about the GoFundMe for the funeral expenses, sharing the info about the candlelight vigil that will be going down at Mob Alley tomorrow night, and just, continuing to pour in your condolences, past memories, all that stuff as well. And again, it's going to be tough, man, just as Chris Diabetti pointed out in what he put out on Twitter this week. I completely agree with him. It's just very unfortunate, and it sucks that Griz is not going to be a part of, the last chapter of the fight to secure Oakland's sports future, or, the struggle to secure the future of Oakland and making it better, period, going forward. But the best way that we can honor what that man did and continue what he did, what he contributed, how he went about doing things to make this city better, is to emulate what he did. And that is, of course, continue to help out with cleaning up things on the first Saturday of the month. Hell, go beyond that. Just do it whenever you want. Just help do your part to make sure this city gets cleaned up. Help donate to the homeless. Help feed, unhoused animals, all that stuff, or just, do your part. Do what you feel would be in the best way to honor the memory of Godfather Griz Jones. And, as mentioned, it's going to be, who knows how long before we ultimately got a clear picture of how we're going to operate things with Forever Oakland going forward. And again, it's going to be something that will be touched on and discussed by everybody that's in the group, but, we also still got to have the dust settle ultimately from all this stuff. But again, as mentioned, there are still plans to do the first Saturday of the month cleanup around Oakland this upcoming Saturday, August the 5th. So definitely keep your eyes open for stuff on that. And again, we definitely will continue, I believe for sure, doing that. And just, it's going to be a real, can't really give you all a vast idea of what's going to happen going forward, because I don't have those answers. Chris probably doesn't have those answers. And a lot of the other guys there really don't have the answers, because, again, we got to get through this portion of things right now, get the dust settled from that, and then ultimately figure out what's going to happen going forward. But I definitely feel that when we come out on the other end of things with this, that we will definitely keep Forever Oakland on the same level and energy that Griz had it, and honor what he started and keep that bad boy going forward. And just again, man, just it just again shows you that appreciate these moments you got with everyone out there, because just you never know, man. Just one quick change with health, just quick change with something, just boom. It happens, man. Life comes at you quick, so just cherish the moments you got with individuals and family and friends that you feel close to you, and just always do your best to document those memories and remember those memories. So when a circumstance like this comes up, and you're not able to spend time with an individual like that anymore, you're not sitting there dwelling so much on the fact that they're not there anymore, but you have those memories to look back on. Keep yourself positive, and that's definitely probably one of the biggest things Griz would want as well. Aside from continuing that whole thing of making Oakland better, remember him for the positive and the great things that he contributed and touched on with people's lives and around this city. Instead of having to sit there and dwell on how things went down at the end or how he looked at the end. That's not how he would want it. He would want to be remembered for everything he did to help make the city of Oakland and beyond better. And myself and others out there will make sure to do that and continue to make Oakland better. And just again, reminder for anyone out there, if you have the chance to tomorrow, again, candlelight vigil tomorrow for the late Godfather Griz Jones will be going down at the corner of 66th Avenue and Coliseum Way, what's affectionately, of course, over the years become known as Mob Alley. That, of course, again, is tomorrow, Sunday, July 24th. That will begin at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. There will be a jar out there that will be available for individuals that, if they're able to donate to the funeral expenses for the late Godfather Griz Jones. And if you aren't able to make it out there to the candlelight vigil, of course, tomorrow, you can, of course, also donate to the funeral fund through the GoFundMe that Chris has put out there as well. So again, just keep everyone associated with Griz and his family and his associates in thoughts and prayers. And again, let's definitely honor this man's legacy by doing what he always strived to do, which is helping out those that are less fortunate than ourselves that are around us, man. Just continuing to do what we got to do to make Oakland better. As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics. On behalf of the boss man and the rest of the knuckleheads that are still tied to your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, this is the Legally 5150 Corporal Oaktown signing off for the evening. Y'all take care and enjoy what is left of your Saturday night. The views and opinions of our cast, our guests, and our listeners are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the Oakland Athletics or Major League Baseball. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always for tuning in to A's Talk from the fans' point of view. And thank you again, of course, also to all of you longtime friends of the late Godfather Griz Jones out there that tuned in for this edition of the show. As always, don't drink and drive. Wrap before you tap it. Same old crap I got told before every single safety brief that I went to when I was in the United States Marine Corps, because we want to see you right back here. Same bat time. Well, not same bat time. The usual bat time on the usual Twitch channel on Thursday the 28th at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for show number 314 of AsFAnRadio. Until then, good night, Oakland and beyond. And as always, be sure to stay Oakland, my friends.
It's up to you. What's your pleasure? Everyone around the world, come on! It's a celebration.